Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Arc Dev Kit tutorials. Today we're going to be creating a Tranq arrow that also depletes hunger. This was a request from a viewer, so I thought I'd jump right on that. I definitely want you guys to be requesting stuff, and a couple other tutorials that will be coming up are also requests. The difference between this arrow and other arrows is the fact that it's not only going to have a set effect on it, but it's also going to have a buff on it. We're going to have to create a buff for this. This is going to be kind of the first buff of this series, so I do want to say this is probably getting a little more advanced than we've been so far. The next couple tutorials, it'll be going up and down between basic and advanced. So we're going to jump right into the dev kit. If you remember the last time we were in the dev kit, we were making a spear. So the next thing we're going to do is, for this, we're literally just going to be making an arrow, but we're going to have to utilize a lot more than just the arrow, because it will work with other bows, but it's not going to necessarily seem the way you'd expect. So for this, we're just going to name it Tranq Arrow. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is go in and find an arrow to work with. Easiest way to make it so that we don't have to look for crap is just click blueprint. If you don't know how to do that, you should have watched a prior tutorial, but you can go into filters, check blueprint. Any of these you can check just to find things a lot easier. So this is the engram for the arrow stone. Now we're going to copy this in just like we would any other. We're going to next right click that, go to reference viewer, and we're going to find the primal item arrow stone. It's on the right hand side to the top. I'm going to right click that, find in content browser. We're going to copy that into the Tranq arrow folder. We're going to name these. Name them whatever you want to name them. I'm just putting YT at the end of them because it's for the YouTube channel. I might put this YouTube mod out just so you guys might be able to use it as a reference, like so you could see what it does. I might do that. If you guys feel I should do that, mention that in the comments. I'll throw this together as an upload, maybe just to let you guys be able to see what transgresses from this series. So we're going to go into the primal item arrow stone. Now, to get this to correctly work, it's connected to a weapon template. You scroll down, you're going to be able to find what it's going through. So we're going to find the weapon bow. We're going to copy that as well into the Tranq arrow. I know you think I'm wrong on this one, but you need to link it to something, because of the fact that if it just doesn't work, it's not going to get the job done. You can use it on the weapon crossbow, the weapon compound bow, but just for this tutorial, we're going to just do it on the weapon bow. If you want it to work on other bows, you're just going to need to go in and add those in. If you guys want me to do a tutorial on setting up an arrow on all the bows, just let me know. I'll do that, but in this one, we're just going to be doing it for this. Now, if we go in here, we now have this. We're going to need to rename it just like everything else. And we're going to look for its projectile, just like we did in the last tutorial. And if we scroll down, projectile class, projectile arrow, we're going to go into content browser, and we're going to drag that into the Tranq arrow folder. We're going to rename that once we get in here. We're going to double click that. We're going to get its mesh. For this, I also want to have a couple other things, but we're going to just kind of follow the work pattern so far. We're going to drag that in, copy that in. rename that. We're also going to need to go into the primal item ammo, and we're going to want to go into mesh, and there's nothing, so that's perfect. We will want to set up projectile, have the mesh that we just got, we're going to want to put that into there. See how it's got the YT at the end? We're going to also want to go in and find a buff. It's pretty easy to find a buff, considering all you have to do is just type in buff. It does. None of this matters, like, what you use. Like, you can use the alpha eyes, and it's a little easier than, per se, some things, because these are just, like, buffs that are going to add, like, the little eyes and stuff like that. It doesn't really matter what buff you're using. You're going to be changing it. This is the buff that's going to make it so that it's going to deplete said object's hunger. Because not only do we want it to be a Tranq arrow, but we want it to deplete. See, there's the little. As long as we just delete this, it's not gonna do what it was doing before. We're going to go down. We're going to see deactivates after time. That's not going to matter because we're wanting it to set as persistent. We're going to go to values per second. We're going to go down to food, and we're going to put -100. Okay? You can put that to anything you want. If you put it above, it's going to raise their food. If you put it below, it's going to minus it. For this buff, this can be used for anything. That means for health, stamina, torpidity, anything. Like, for this one, the viewer asked to find out how to deplete the food. So we're going to deactivate after time. I'm actually going to change that, and I'm going to set it to, say, 100. And that's going to make it so it's after 100 seconds, it's going to deactivate. So that means after 100 seconds of this object being on said animal, it's going to stop. So we're going to strict compile and save that. We're going to go into the projectile. We're going to type in buff. And it didn't do anything that I wanted it to do. We're going to go into weapon buff. And it's not in there either. That's great. It's just being a pain. We're going to check the buff for this. I don't believe that's the per se thing that we want. So I don't believe that. I think that would just screw up your character. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into projectile. We're going to go into effect. And if you remember, the person wanted to have a very high Tranq. They wanted to have it pretty much as an instant Tranq. Now, the devs already have something in here that's pretty powerful on Tranq, but it's capable of more. We just gotta wait a second for it to open this. We all love how long it takes to open these stupid little tabs. If you don't have to open the tabs, you don't want to. If you type in quad, you're gonna find the devs version of the quad torpor. That's like a high amount of torpor, so if we take that and we put that into the Tranq arrow, we're going to rename that. Now, this is already going to do a decent amount of torpor, but we're going to maximize it because of the fact that the person wants it higher that asked about it. So, right now it's at 4 times. If we just set that to like 5,000, the thing's just going down. If we check, we can also add the buff. This is what we wanted this for, okay? Now, it will drop down its hunger as well as knock it out. If we go back into the projectile, we're going to take the damage type, we're going to put that in. And to make it interesting so that you guys can see this, I'm going to add in an effect for when it hits the target. So say you want it to be a Tranq arrow, you want it to do something that looks like it's doing Tranq damage. We're doing impact emitter. You don't need to edit any of this unless you just want them not to get any damage. If you don't want them to get any damage, just change direct damage to 0. Do not change anything else. If the projectile life, you can raise or lower that, but don't really change too much. So, if you remember correctly in the last one, the acid explosion works really well for this. We're going to change this to 60 seconds because I want it to sit there for a little bit longer. We'll go to description. We're good. No descriptions in here. If we go into the primal item, we're going to go to description. And we're going to have this is called Tranq X. The reason I'm saying Tranq X is because it also has like the hunger depletion made for YouTube. We're going to go into the requirements. And as you can see, a couple more items are needed than what I normally do in these episodes. So we're just going to have thatch. It's going to cost 2. That's it. That's all it costs. Make sure we go down. Make sure there's no crafting requirements. And then we're going to go to strict compile and save. We're going to type in WEAP, weapon bow. We're going to take the weapon bow YouTube. And let me see. Weapon item template. Okay, we should be good with that. I just want to make sure that it's not going to force us to use a new weapon itself. Onto weapon template, weapon YouTube. Okay, so I mean that should technically work. I think we should change that to just weapon bow. But then it won't use this specific type of ammo that I want. Man, it's taking forever. You click anything in this dev kit and it takes like an hour. Okay, we're going to keep it as that, because it should work like that. We're going to click the weapon, we're going to go to mesh, see if there's any mesh for this. Let's go with this one. There's some rigs. We haven't really changed it, so it doesn't really matter on that. Projectile. And we're going to add this to projectile class. Okay. And we're going to do the engram. Just going to set that to 0, 0. You can just get it. Primal item. There you go. And that should be pretty much all that we need. I'm just making sure. Makes me. I feel like I'm missing something. We're going to strict compile and save after we add the engram. I am missing something. Projectile. Nope, nope, nope. It's going to have something. And we're going to make sure to put this for primal item to pick that up. And we need to make sure use make sure if it uses something. There we go. I knew I missed a couple of things. There we go. We should be able to make it now. Thatch. Tranq X. And perfect! It worked. See, I knew that I was missing something. And I picked up a Tranq arrow. Nice! After all the, expecting it was not going to be doing what I wanted it to do, it ended up doing what I wanted. So I hope, even though it looked like I had missed something in the beginning, I hope this tutorial was helpful, because it actually did what I wanted to in the end. So at this point, if you follow the tutorial, you will have an arrow that when you shoot it, it will leave a nice impact. It will do torpor damage, and it depletes 100 health per second. So, I hope that was helpful. If you guys enjoyed, please check out the next episode. Catch you guys later.